that took us into Smackdown later that night, with the Bloodline opening the show. We were 10 minutes into the show before Roman Reigns even said a word. He came out first with all the members of the Bloodline except The Rock, and he tried to get Glendale, Arizona to acknowledge him, and he wasn't happy with the response, and so he said, "That's it. We're done here." And he told Paul Heyman, "Go get the jet fired up." And Heyman told him, "Well, we can't leave yet because he's coming out. The Rock is coming out right after this commercial break." And Roman didn't look very happy about this. Rock came out after the break. He was, again, dressed up like the Rock of old with the expensive, gaudy shirt. He got into the ring. Roman Reigns could not hide his disgust with any of this because he gave an order, and Paul Heyman defied that order because, the bigger star, your cousin, is on his way out. So you could already see they're laying the groundwork for the next phase of this story. And so The Rock went out there, and I mentioned before about the Die Rocky Die sign. This segment was great in spite of all the censoring that nearly butchered the entire thing. Now, it may have been different for you if you were watching this internationally on another channel, but on Fox, they blacked out the screen multiple times. You could hear the audio, but they blacked out the screen because there was one person with a Die Rocky Die sign in the crowd, which is just fucking ridiculous. Especially when you consider some of the shit and the smut that this network airs on a regular basis and has aired in the past. And that will get the show blacked out, really? So that was idiotic. At least the audio stuff, when they chant, fuck you, or they chant shit, there's FCC regulations. I mean, that's annoying too, but okay, fine. You can kind of understand it. But all of the censoring, again, it nearly ruined the entire segment here. Now, Rock said that Glendale is 10 miles away from Phoenix, and he did some research, and apparently he said it's the #1 city in America for cocaine and meth use. And he said, "Your life has meaning. Finally, you cactus-loving crackheads finally have something worth shooting into your veins." And he talked about how professional wrestling is cool again. Every city is sold out. Even this crack den with popcorn, it's all sold out. And it's all because of him. And then he turned his attention to Cody Rhodes, because Cody had challenged him to a singles match. So this was Rock's response to Cody Rhodes here after the social media video. And he talked about Cody thinking he's tough by challenging The Rock. You want your answer. Here's your answer. The answer is no. You're not getting your one-on-one match with The Rock. But he did have a counteroffer, because he said that he's a businessman. The Bloodline, they're a bunch of businessmen. So he's got a counter proposal for him. He goes, "Cody, you and your best friend, the Walking Clown Show, Seth Rollins, on night 1 of WrestleMania, the biggest tag team match in the history of WWE and pro wrestling. Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins against Roman Reigns and The Rock." And I mentioned this on Friday. I thought back to Vegas when Triple H came out at the press conference and he talked about WrestleMania, and he put WrestleMania over in these grandiose terms. But he specifically singled out the first main event of the very first WrestleMania in '85, which was a tag team match. He mentioned Hulk Hogan and Mr. T against Rowdy Roddy Piper and Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff. And now that we have it official, I mean, it was pretty clear from the end of that press conference that we were probably going to get a tag match. It was just a matter of when. But that's the reason why he singled that match out. He specifically shined a spotlight on the very first WrestleMania main event being a tag team match. And now here we are, because they're setting up the biggest tag team match in the history of WrestleMania. And that's not just Rock calling it that. It would be. It will be. Just based on pure star power alone, the biggest tag team match in WrestleMania history is going to be Rock and Roman against Cody and Seth. Regardless of the quality of the match, right? We don't know yet how good the match is going to be. It should be very good, but it will be the biggest tag match they've ever had in the history of that event. But he said, it's not just going to be a regular tag team match. He goes, "If you two jabronis beat The Rock and Roman Reigns on night 1, then Cody, your title match on night 2 will be completely free of the Bloodline." He said that includes Rock himself, Solo, Jimmy, and the Wise Man. Of course, he didn't say anything about the other members of the Bloodline, for which there are many, many, many other members of the Bloodline, but at least The names that he mentioned, he said, would not be allowed to interfere in the match, and Cody would have a shot then to finish his story one-on-one with Roman Reigns. But when The Rock and Roman Reigns beat your two candy asses on night 1, then on night 2, Cody, for your title match, it is bloodline rules. Anything goes. He said, I could pull up a chair and call the match with Pat McAfee. Goes, maybe Solo wants to sing the national anthem, which the crowd seemed to be all in favor of. Wasn't there a video that Solo, he might have deleted the video or he took his social media private because people were spreading an old video of Solo from years ago, like at home singing, like singing in the kitchen or something. Wouldn't it be something if it turns out that Solo Sikoa actually has a good singing voice? But he said anything's legal. They could do anything they want to. So that gives them a lot to think about. He challenged them to meet him and Roman next week in Dallas to give them their answer. And that's the other thing I like, is the fact that if they're going in this direction, if they're going to use Roman and Rock, at least we're getting them on TV. Because one of my fears was Rock comes back to wrestle Roman, and we get him a handful of times, if that, on TV, because he's a busy guy, right? We've been through this before. But the fact that he is taking the time to actually be there on television almost every single week, you have to. You know, you got to keep the story interesting. He doesn't have to be on every SmackDown between now and then, but the fact that they've already announced him for 3 more is huge. And so that's good, because if they're going to build this entire story around these people, we need them on the fucking show. And that includes Roman too. He said if they don't accept their challenge, then the world knows that The Rock will do everything in his power to make sure that Cody does not win that title. He said he sits at the board, he owns it all, which means The Rock is your boss, and there ain't a man in the back that can do anything about it. No vice president, no general manager. The crowd chanted for Triple H. Now, Rock actually did mention Triple H by name. The reason I said that he didn't in my review on Friday is because it was censored by Fox. That's why I didn't hear it. I have since seen the uncensored version, and yes, he did mention Triple H. Very dismissively, he said, no vice president of who gives a shit, Triple H, can do anything to stop The Rock. I'm very much looking forward to the inevitable face-to-face confrontation between Rock and Triple H. Just for old time's sake. There's no way Triple H is having a match again, but could he get physical with The Rock at WrestleMania? Could he throw some punches? Could he maybe hit one pedigree? Yeah, it's possible. It would have to be limited, whatever. Like, I don't see him going out there and taking bumps. He could probably have some limited physicality. I just don't see him being cleared to do an actual match. But if we could get some physicality with him and Rock, I think that'd be pretty cool. I think that'd be something I'd like to see. Rock said, Cody, if you don't accept that challenge, The Rock and Roman Reigns will end your story tragically. And so the stage is set now for Dallas this Friday on SmackDown. He went to go do his sign-off. Roman stopped him. He cut him off in mid-sign-off. And then he took another microphone from Paul Heyman. He goes, I need something from you. I need this one thing. Acknowledge me. And Rock took his shades off. They stared at each other. Rock finally spoke up. He said, Roman Reigns, I acknowledge you as my tribal chief. And they shook hands. And then we got the sign-off. And then they put their fingers up in the air. And again, Rock flashed the L sign with his fingers before he went to the one-finger salute. He did flash that L again. Again, that's by design. That's not an accident. This entire segment ate up the first 40 minutes of SmackDown on Friday night. And it reminded me of the Tribal Court segment at MSG last year. It took up almost as much time, about 35 minutes. And I was glued to the TV from start to finish. That was one of the best television segments, if not the best one, on WWE TV all year. This segment was very similar in that way, that all the censoring aside, as annoying as that was, it was very compelling. I was never bored. Yes, they drag out the entrances. There's a lot of dead time here, but this is what WWE is. It's about the grandiose entrances, the big stars. Their fans eat it up, right? I mean, look, that's the way it is in WWE. It may not be that way in other companies. It doesn't make it right or wrong. That's the way WWE has always done things. I don't know why this is surprising to people. I don't want to see WWE become AEW, and I don't want to see AEW become WWE. I don't really understand why there is still such a back and forth over, well, this is the way that things should be done. I can't believe that this went this long and they dragged it out this way. Yeah, I'd be more offended if the segment sucked or if it was boring. But if they can send these guys out there and talk for 40 minutes or talk for 30 minutes and have 10 minutes of entrances and keep it compelling, then I'm fine with it. That doesn't bother me. And it accomplished a lot of things. It accomplished the challenge for night one, which is going to be accepted. And so now we know it's going to be a tag team match. We have stipulations, so it's not just a tag team match. Now there are actual stakes here. I think it actually makes the outcome more predictable, not less predictable, because I cannot imagine them doing the Roman and Cody match on night two without trying to replicate the finish last year. With Solo hitting the spike on Cody, you put the fear of God in all the Cody fans. Oh my God, not again. Only for Cody to kick out this time, right? It's such a missed opportunity if they don't do that. Of all the times for there to be bloodline interference, and I'm so over it because the playbook is just so played out at this point. But of all the times you're going to have bloodline interference, this is the one time that it would make all the sense in the world to have the bloodline interfere and throw everything they possibly can, the kitchen sink, at Cody, because I think Roman is losing. And if there's going to be a title change and Roman is losing, then yes, they should have interference and they should be desperate and trying different things to make sure that Roman can keep his belt. If Seth defends his title on night one and works twice that night, that could come into play here too. He could come into the tag team match hurt. This is the man that's been going around for the past 9 months. I got a broken back, right? He's walking around like an old man. What was the other injury? He got the knee, right? He's about to be cleared from his knee, so he had a knee injury. He's got a back injury. He could come into that match as the walking wounded. That could play a role in the tag match. If Cody has to go it alone, it's basically turns into a handicap match, and that could be their out for losing. And then what do we get on night two? We get absolute anarchy in the main event under Bloodline rules. It's going to be completely overbooked. If you are not a fan of overbooked matches in wrestling, this is not going to be the match for you. There are right ways and there are wrong ways. There are good ways and bad ways to do an overbooked match where it could be fun or it could be total shit. But if they're going to do it, just go crazy with it. Go all the way with it. So long as nobody wins the title for Cody, that's the one thing I don't want them to do. That's the one thing they cannot do. The worst thing they could do is have somebody else do something that wins it for Cody Rhodes, or physically attack Roman Reigns, and that directly leads into the finish, right? They could clear out the bloodline. They could neutralize The Rock, make it a fair fight, but Cody needs to win on his own merits, not because a bigger star came out and helped win it for him. The other thing this segment did, it furthered the tension between Rock and Roman, which sets up their inevitable match, which I assume is WrestleMania 41, but who knows? You know, it could be a multi-match series. They could wrestle at SummerSlam. We don't know where things are going to go there. It probably will be WrestleMania 41, though. But the little things they did, the look on Roman's face, him calling him out at the end and saying, I need something from you. It was gnawing away at him the entire time. I need you to acknowledge me. And then Rock did, but it felt completely insincere. So this was great. I mean, they are telling multiple stories here. I thought this entire segment from start to finish was excellent. I know there are varied opinions about it, but I thought it was excellent. And now it feels like this story is back on solid ground, heading into WrestleMania. And then once things play out at WrestleMania and the main event is over and one story ends, there's this other story that can go in any number of directions.